It's actually known in Porsche circles as, similar to myself, as the Baron.
I think the AMR is a really good one, Jay. But I don't know what you do with the other 180k you'd have left over once you bought that AMR.
It guides itself, doesn't it? It's perfect. It's absolutely from the clunk when that door opens. It's perfect.
Can I just thank Manish for using the phrase eccentric within the ellipse? Hello and welcome to the Car Podcast with Chris Harris and his friends. And we've got one more friend today. You can see him there. He's a hat man. Well, he's the cat in the hat. He's JK. He's the front man of Jamiroquai. And we all know he loves his cars. But what you didn't know about him is he's as sad as us. His nerdity of cars is as bad as us. His condition around cars is arguably worse than ours. But you'll definitely hear more about that in a minute. He's not going to answer the first question first because that's unfair. We've discussed that. So we're going to dive straight in. You've got to merge two cars together to make one perfect car. Now, I think this is a bit of a trick question because it looks like you might just go in on engine swaps and what have you. And I think I've answered it wrong already in my head. So, Neil, do it right, please.
Oh, this is such a good question. And I love it. I love it. My favourite looking car is the Porsche 928 GTS. I adore them. I've had 5 of them. In the end, they're always a bit shit to drive because they didn't travel well, did they? It's like an E500. It's like, I don't know, listening to the Jam. It hasn't gone through the generations. But to look at it, I think it nails any other 911, frankly. So I'm doing a 928 GTS. I'm not going to go the early 928. I'm sticking with the big wide arch, the big wheels, the cup mirrors. But I'm putting what to me is probably the best drivetrain in it, which is a Ferrari TDF. So I'm putting a V12 TDF engine, gearbox, brakes, and I'm going to have, I think, pinnacle car, top car. That would be. I would just drive that every day for the rest of my life. So that's what I would do.
I can only imagine how much dry sumping would need to go on to make it fit under that flat bonnet. But there we go.
No, it's going to fit. It's going to fit.
Jay, you've got to Siamese 2 cars, or you can do an engine swap. What are you going for?
Well, what Neil said, he said he wouldn't go for the early car. And for me, the early 928 with those lovely little oblong orange, red, white lights is by far the best. For a start, I'd take the Pasha interior out of the 928. And like Neil, I have had a 928. I've had a manual GTS, and it was still shit.
Yeah,
I still had water cooling problems and all the rest of it. It's all a bit of a nightmare. But trick question. And so at the moment, and this is something I really actually want to do, and because they're not a lot of money, I would like to take 2 Alpines and fuse them together to make a 4-seat Alpine.
Oh, yeah.
And I really do. A 4-seat, take 2 Premier Editions, 30, 31 grand a knock, doesn't matter. Chop them in half and make effectively your Alpine stroke Lusso Ferrari type vibe.
You'd 2-door or 4-door.
That would be great if you got suspension right, set it up properly. You've got a 4-seat thing that flies around in Alpine fashion.
Would you have two doors or 4 doors?
No, do you know what? And I know we're going to talk about something later, so I don't want to give the game away. I would have 4 doors. But the other thing that I wanted to say was nobody's ever done it, is the original, because I've got one in the garage there, which I hang on to, in the Alubeam Silver, which was a 7 grand option, I might add. And I would have an SLS shooting brake.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
No one's done. Yes, I mean, they, for rear lights, are super pretty. There's those, there's your 928s, and then there's your Z8 light.
Yes.
problem with the Z8 is I had one of the first. I think I had the first one in the country, and I remember showing it to my girlfriend at the time. She went, "Yeah, it's all right, I suppose."
Where's she now?
It's a Z8 with an M5 engine in. What are you talking
Where
about?
is she now?
I think she's doing how much is your heating bill programs. There was one on the other day. She'll remain nameless. But what I'm saying is that the Z8, my bugbear with the Z8, and I came close, started to skirmish with one the other day, and the bugbear is that the front lights should have been like an XJ220. It should have been covered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would almost give it a little bit of that sort of
275 feeling.
TDF type vibe. Do you know what I mean?
Don't you dare, Cooper. I knew you'd do that.
The 275.
One of you two.
The ugly one.
It has droop snoot.
The ugly one.
Have you still got your 275, Jay?
I got rid of the 275 because
It's ugly.
no, just because I'd sort of done it. It'd been in the videos, and when I'm poor, lonely, bored, and old, I can still turn around to everybody and go, "Well, I had a 275 in the day," because it's on the video, you see.
Yeah.
And having got it through a video in southern Spain, where it must have been about 48 degrees, and going back and forth, then hearing on the radio, "Okay, can we get another run in, please?" And then we're sitting there, the brakes going, and me thinking, "Yeah, this was fun at the time." And then thinking to myself, I've also got to get it round, make sure that Madam in the video doesn't crash into me, who was
It's in the Merc.
what's her name, in the Merc, and she said, I don't really drive much, and I had to say, well, it's a straight road, just keep in a straight line, I'll go around you. But at the end of the day, I got rid of that, and I got into a 275 GTS because I always wanted one.
There you go.
And I thought to myself, what other Ferrari can you have from the 60s, 2-seat, drop top, you want to go Cal Spider, you're 20 million down. 275, 330 is a bit, never quite got me. It's a bit like that 1967 500 Superfast. It's a bit like, it's a bit like 365 is a bit like the 4 seats and that sort of ugly, funny little back.
The Mary Rose.
Ainley.
Manish, what would you make? What would your two cars be Siamese together, or the combination of attributes?
The worst Formula One season for me, apart from 94, was 1992 when your boy Nige destroyed everybody in Formula One. What a painful year that was. It took 6 races for that season to get going. And what I would love to do, Senna's McLaren that year was the MP47. 12-cylinder engine, really didn't get it right. But the following year, they got the electronics right with the MP48. So what I would love to do is mate the MP47 with the electronics of the MP48 so that it was Senna versus Mansell, both in active cars. And we'd have had probably the best Formula One season anyone could have remembered.
And
So I'd make 2 McLarens to make a super McLaren. What?
Come on, Il Leone. Il Leone.
You just seen him off.
But what my public don't understand is how hard it is to beat Senna in a much better car. You don't know how hard it is, my public.
I think that's a lovely choice, actually, Manish. I have to say, I didn't expect it coming. Chris Cooper, 2 cars, Siamese together.
Well, like Neil, I really love this question because it kind of, there's a danger you end up with the body parts in Victor Frankenstein's kitchen, cobbling them together. And
We've done that in real life. You know that. It's called medical school.
We need to see the pictures at a later date. He never named that beast he made. My beast has a name. Its name shall be 928.
Oh, there you go.
928. So it's kind of bits of 2 cars. The 911 is just, we all love them, but sometimes you want a bit less noise, a bit more comfort, and a bit more effortless push. And I think the drivetrain of a Panamera Turbo is just mega. It's got loads of power, loads of torque, loads of character. And don't laugh. There's something about the look of an i8, particularly the arse of an i8, I actually quite like.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bit to the body of a Panamera and an i8 with the Panamera drivetrain with that cool i8. It's the modern 928.
So can I say one thing? I agree with you, but can I also suggest that if you've seen the back of an i8 and someone said it looks like it's shitting out a 991,
People said that.
you can never unsee it. We'll put it up now. You'll see this image of a back of an i8 and it looks like it's doing a poo and it's basically turtlenecking a 991 and you'll never unsee it.
I know. I kind of, and I know that. And
Hold on. The i8 came out a long time before the 991. It's quite ahead of its time.
It's 15.
14 it was about the same
The
time.
i8's after. I think it's 2 years after.
Well,
so I'm going.
I drove one once. I was quite impressed with it.
Yeah.
And the just it's almost like, how can I put it? Liking big super limos, back to the day when I was a kid, and my auntie Betty worked for the company that looked after the royal cars, and I sat in the back. I was about 6, and I sat in the back of Princess Margaret's Phantom 5. And
No.
Picnic table.
Did it look like she'd been baking pizzas? Was there dust everywhere?
No, but it had a division, which is highly necessary if you have 2 children like mine.
I do want an i8. I'm gonna scratch the i8 itch at some point.
Yeah, they're
The
nice.
thing about the i8.
I had a go, and it was but button wise and fun wise, and I know that's not the most important thing, but it reminded me of when I got an itch for an XJS. And I remember being a kid, and my mum was singing during a summer season in Bournemouth, and Paul Daniels turned up, and I think the number plate was PD 4823, and he had a yellow XJS. I mean, really, XJS. But then I thought to myself, and our old bass player had a 3.6 cab where they changed the rear lights from like 1988.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, I thought to myself, I'm going to scratch that itch, but I'm going to avoid that, and I'm going to go for something I think will be reliable. And so I phoned up. I said, "Can you bring in over an XJS 4-litre Celebration?" And it's one of the few cars I was so bored within 5 minutes, I didn't actually buy it
Well,
because
I'll
there was
tell you what.
nothing to play with. All there was to play with was Peter, radio. And that was it.
Really glad I've got an XGS arriving tomorrow morning. Glad I bought that. That'll go down well.
Well, you've got a manual coming. But going to that point, you've got a manual. But I always wanted on the Jaguar thing. And I still hanker after. I saw one in Rome after doing the Mille Miglia. Guy pulls up midnight blue. Well, not a Jag, but on the back, Daimler, 666.
Oh, we've had this conversation.
And to sit in the local pub, stick your keys across and go, "What do you drive?" "I drive a 666.
Yeah. Totally
And
with you.
Not only that pretty little fat cigar, D. That's one of the finest lovely little things. Just to click that into D every day.
Oh,
Yeah.
Off. And then break down on the M4.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
Yeah,
Okay,
what are you, Merchant?
What about
Chris?
yours?
Oh, sorry,
What's
mine.
yours?
So I've got this. I've got a bit of a bin in my bonnet about. There's one era of cars that I tested when I started doing this for a living. That there was always something missing from these cars, right? French hot hatchbacks were the best hatches when I was young and when I was starting doing the job. They were just the bizzo. They really got every aspect of it. And I think if you were my age at that time, they were the only cars you could really afford, and you drove them like a prick. And the fact we didn't all die in them was a miracle. But I love them. However, their engines were always a bit shit. The engines were always, they never quite pulled, they never really revved. They were the budget part of the package. You always read these stories in Car Magazine. Like Gavin Green telling you that Peugeot spends £150 on its dampers, whereas, Austin Rover, he spends £10.
Yeah.
But the engines were always shite. So what I want to get that Civic that was made in about 92, 93. I think it was the Gen 5 Civic. And put that amazing VTEC 1.6 litre engine into a 306 GTI 6 or stick it into a 205 GTI. Because even that engine isn't that great. But a real proper Japanese over-engineered Aston engine where they just, some bloke spent 14 years of his life. He sacrificed his children to get the right compound for something. And I want that engine in a French hatchback. I know I've been a bit mundane there, but I always thought the engines weren't good enough. And of course, the great disappointment was when Renault turned around in about 2001 or whenever it was and said, we're going to put a V6 in the back of a Clio. I thought, well, here we go. A big V6 in a Clio. But even that was a bit shit because it wasn't a very good engine. So for me...
I don't think that's that hard. Those lads down in Cornwall and my friends down there who run that Class 1 offshore powerboat, who in their spare time are putting a Maserati Quattroporte drivetrain in an Alpha 75, that would be a piece of...
Yeah, I'm not telling you what, I'm up for that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have a word.
Okay, right. This is a more general question. You're allowed to pass legislation that allows one major change to petrol forecourts in the UK. What do you choose to do? Jay, you can go first because your finger was raised.
Yeah, I've got that. What you could do, as you come into the petrol station and you walk in and you're diving for a piss, make sure there's a toilet there.
Yeah.
Number two, make sure that if the toilet is there, it doesn't look like a dirty protest from the maze from 1972.
Yeah.
Number three, clear up fucking litter that's everywhere.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Okay, well, that's three good ones. Neil, you're allowed one. Go on.
The job I want in my semi-retirement is to be in charge of service stations.
Alan Partridge.
Honestly, I would love the job.
Got an eye.
The minister of service stations. I mean, there's a little list. I'd love to be able to use my phone without the bloke shouting at you, please, sir, can you get off your telephone? I mean, when has a petrol station ever exploded because you're on the telephone? I'd like sometimes to be able to leave my engine running when I'm filling up with petrol. When you've got a flat battery and you've got no petrol.
I do anyway.
We've done that a few times in secret.
We have.
Obviously, I'd like lower tax on petrol. If there's a legislation, that would be nice. That it's not like 97%.
You've had about 7 now, Neil.
Can I just declare one for my wife because she was very passionate about this? Wouldn't it be nice if service stations just smelt decently? That when you walked into them, it's not this is her words, greasy pastry and 4-week-old hot dogs that have been spinning. A little thing. Yeah. It's particularly bad in a Shell service station. I must say, the petrol may be good, but the smell when you walk in, it's pretty bad.
And also
coffee.
Yeah, and just having to negotiate something that looks like Hampton Court Maze just to get to the actual go and pay for the flipping fuel.
Yeah. Yes.
Manish, now you must fill up at least once every 6 years, given that you do 300 miles a year and have a diesel A4 in London. So on your is it biennial or biannual trip to the petrol station, what would you have to improve it?
I would actually import something that Tobago already has, but I would legislate for it. You know what it would be? It would be to have proper petrol attendants at all petrol stations. I want to pull up in Lola, and I just want to lean back and just wind down the electric window, which will probably never wind up again, and just say, fill her up.
How far would you wind the window down, Manish?
Well, no, I get scared. I give it 2 inches and quickly pop them straight.
Yeah.
Because if it comes down and that 2-ton window stays down, But don't you think it would be lovely? You just say, and would you check the oil, my good man? And could you go and buy me could I have a Snicker bar? Can you imagine not actually having to get out of your car and someone just runs in, they get you a Snicker bar, and on their little pad, they add the whole thing up. You scan your phone, you never get out. How good is that?
What you need is, if you don't open your window too much, you need the 1975 Corniche. That's got a little Johnny don't get your fingers caught button.
Yeah.
What, really?
No, it's got, you hit the button, it stops about an inch before, and then you've got another little black button to go.
Oh.
I love
There
that.
you go.
Or if you do want to take somebody's hand off and you need quick reaction, you got to be Mercedes-Benz 600 $5.
Yeah. No missing.
That's the fella. I think Neil had my old one, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We shared it, didn't we?
Shared it, yeah.
So
The French developed those windows in the 18th century. You can imagine that. We had a fantastic revolution, just got it right. Just chopped those limbs off.
The other side of that is the 1960s, early 70s American roller skate up to the window. What's your order?
Oh.
Yeah.
Now without that of you filling up in 5 minutes, how much did you put in at the last station? Just put a tenner in.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a broader point here, and I because I'm not a politician, nor will I ever be, because I just don't have I have no aspirations in that direction. Is that why everything that's automated? If we gave it to a human being, wouldn't we have less unemployment in this country? So if you had attendants there, why does everyone want self-driving cars? Give it to people to drive. There's lots of jobs for people. There's lots of things that are automated, but the worst, there's a pub I go to down in Cornwall where they got rid of the bar staff, and you have to order the drinks on that fucking computer.
You're joking.
No.
Yeah.
Just don't
Name
go.
and shame it.
Yeah, name it and shame it.
Okay, Chris Cooper, I'm going to go before you because I want to get this one in because I suspect you might say the one I'm going to say. It's so simple, this. Why do we disable the clicker in this country? Every other country, you can just put the clicker on and it fills up and you stand by the car. Yeah. But in the UK, they disable it. How many, you just don't need to do it.
No.
You don't.
No.
You don't need to do it. America is the most litigious country on the planet, and they let the clicker stay on. So why can't we have the clicker? And I've just completely rolled over Chris Cooper, who was going to say exactly that.
Yeah. I did have 7 others. But
okay. I tell you what, give us your 6 others. Go on, Chris.
I did have that one as well. I quite like the idea of being able to pick my own price. Depending on the smell, the general cleanliness of the forecourt. I quite like that idea. I would like, because the attendant thing is in Jersey. You go to the island of Jersey, that still works. If you go in there, you go into pay, and the bloke says, "No, get back in your car." Yeah. Rapid fill up, legislation. Because I presume when you asked the question about legislation, Chris, you were referring to the Petroleum Consolidation Regulations of 2014. In those regulations, it says that the dispensing speed of petroleum motor spirit shall be no more than 40 litres per minute. So bollocks to that. So the legislation I would change would be put a fucking 0 on the end of that. And a bit like the racing we used to do. Some bloke would come out, dump churn, don't turn the engine off, bit of squeegee on the windscreen, you'll be out in 30 seconds. That's what I do.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered that. As ever, we've made in our heads the world's a better place.
We've just made it, sort of.
We're going to move on. So we do these occasionally. It's a crystal ball investment challenge. You've got to buy a car for the sum I'm about to mention, but it has to be an Aston Martin, and you've got £200,000. I don't know why I've chosen this, Jay. What would you go for? What were you doing on the last couple of days? What were you doing over the last couple of days?
I was on the internet, Yeah, I'll tell you what I've been doing. Okay, so in the garage, I've got, which I bought a fair while ago, I've got one of those last V12 titanium exhaust 6-litre AMR Roadsters, manual box. You've driven one because I've seen you in the Highlands.
Yep.
Gunning it. Fabulous sound. Best fucking sound of any car I've got. Period. Finish. For me, I would be throwing. Are we under 200 or over 200?
You're allowed 200 grand. That's it.
Oh, you're allowed to. Okay,
Yeah.
so for me, the manual of that V12S would be a good thing. Now, the other thing I've been looking at, and don't all go out and buy one now, is wait for it. Just wait for it. I know you're all laughing. You've obviously been speaking to Clifford. Is the Rapide AMR?
No, we haven't been speaking. Interesting.
Is this
They made
the money to go up or down?
Well, it's going down, but think about it. Q car, I've been doing a lot of research. It's a top driving thing. 6 litre V12 makes some
Yeah.
noise, and this is what you're talking about now, aren't you? You're talking about end of a thing, none of
Yeah.
this Merc engine thing. If you want the last of that breed, if you're not worried about, also just remember this. In the not too distant future, you're going to end up with a little thing in the car that goes bong, 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 bong as you go over 70. And you're about a year and a half away from that.
No, it's
So
happening now.
I've
New
already
cars
got
now.
something out there. You got that Audi RS6 GT. You've got to switch it off, but you can switch it off. I think there'll come a time when you won't be able to switch the fucking thing off. So what I'm saying is that Rapide, by all accounts, is well sorted. Mr. Becker sorted the damn thing out. It's a Q car. It is the ultimate Q car. I think it makes great sound, everything. They made, I don't know how many, they made 200 and what of them, 211 of them. But it's not that. It's just the way it does it, and it comes up as a proper thing.
And it's pretty. It's
And,
pretty.
and it is very pretty. I mean, I'm not a black wheel fan, so I just made the wheels
Good.
silver, and that's
Good.
it.
You are welcome in this house with that opinion.
Just to let you know, there are 4 out there at the moment. It retailed at 211 grand. It certainly isn't that now.
No.
Okay. So, and also you've got.
And I really, 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 really want one. And everybody turns and says, "Well, just have the Rapide S." Similar type of thing.
No.
Trouble is, I just think, this is the way to go. I just think that you can have this stuff. I made a rule many years ago, which is you can have the stuff, but if it doesn't sound good and it's not great to drive, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Case in point, a mate of mine who phoned up and said, I'm looking at a 5,000 Quattrovalvoli Lamborghini. And I went, yeah, I had one, a yellow one, 1971. WYN 820S. And I remember sitting at Lancaster Gate Junction for about half an hour until I thought the only way to get out of this staggered junction is to lean across, lift the scissor door, look, and go, with and then, because that's the only way you can see. So all I'm saying is that's my thing. Rapide AMR, Rapide S AMR or V12 Vantage late one 2018 manual.
I'd say Jay's going for a long-term punt with the Rapide.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's one you pull out later on and go, and everybody goes, "Fuck me, remember that thing?"
Yeah. Also, it's got less of a rear ride problem because the standard Rapide rides too high at the back. It's got too much rake in it. It's got, and also you've got enough rear legroom for your children until they get to about 7.
Rear legroom's good. Rear legroom's good.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you've still got, what do you look? I haven't got any friends. That's why I'm talking to you lot.
Same here.
Hoping I can get a mate out of this. and the point is that what do? Chuck your luggage in the back. But it's the sound, it's the oral attack.
Yeah.
By all accounts, it's a 50-50 weight balance. The thing handles on, it handles properly. And it's big and meaty, and it's a bit of a...
They didn't make many, and most of them, I reckon, were driven by Dr. Betts. So you might have
They made 211, 47 for the UK market.
Well, I reckon you might get a bit of one of Dr. Betts' pubes or something in there. Be quite nice, a little bit of extra history in the car. So I'd say, Manish, you've got 200 grand. You've got to buy an Aston Martin that's going to go up in value. What's it going to be?
Well, Professor Harris had a theory on this, didn't you? Which was either go for the thing that's depreciated like a bomb on the basis that the universe has made a mistake for the last 5, 10, 15 or 50 years because it can only go back up, or buy a car that represents something that is just gone and is not coming back. I think this baby at £200,000, very difficult to find something as an Aston Martin that's depreciated to £200,000. So I think I'm going with your latter theory. And I look, produced a few funky things, haven't they, Aston Martin, in the last couple of decades? I oohed and ahed and ummed about an 89 DBS. I thought that the Vantage V600, quite an interesting car.
Yeah.
So is the V8 Volkswagen, all really interesting cars. But I am going with a Neil with an E, 1967. I'm going with the DB6.
Ooh.
And I think that a really pretty... No, don't do that. Don't nerf up your...
60s is gone. It's already too late.
Sean Connery described the DB5. He described it as a ladies' car. He said it was so small you couldn't get into it. And I think a DB6. It's so elegant. It's the proportions. Why are you pulling that
It's
face?
a shit one for 200 grand, though.
Is it?
Well, the point
Wow, I don't know. 10 years
Okay.
time, 15 years time.
the point being that Wenzel, who runs, digit.com, isn't going to want one in 20 years because he's going to want something
Yeah.
later on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wants something from the 90s,
I'm
basically.
going to
Would
be in
you,
my...
the thing is, you have to ask yourself, would you go out and buy an Aston Martin Ulster? Niet. No, because it's just old, smelly and shit. So there are various. I was born in 1969, so I like 60s muscle cars and 70s stuff. Kids who were born in 1998, like my wife. That was a joke. Sorry.
Mate, you're a rock star. We don't think that was out of order.
No, that was.
Yeah, we
that's
really
quite
didn't.
wrong.
We thought,
No, but all I'm saying, I get it, DB6, but and can I just say, while we're having this conversation, no one's allowed to say, one of the those new sort of weird Zagatos, because they're nowhere near 200 grand yet, but they will be because they're odd. And
That's next year's
I
question.
don't, and that's what I'm saying about the Rapide. It's almost semi-shooting brake. I just think, why would you have one of those other Zagatos? I mean, what is there? I've seen loads of them. I mean, they could do the sort of shooting brake. It's like 380 grand, 500 grand. I mean,
Someone bought all the body styles new. That's an interesting depreciation bill.
Yeah.
Manish, you're allowed DB6, of course you are. Neil with an E, what are you going to go for?
Well, this is a weekly conversation with Jay and I, and even though it's got Ford switchgear, a very ugly steering wheel, panel gaps which are no better than a Ford Sierra. In fact, a lot worse than Ford Sierra. I would go V600.
Would you?
I would go V600.
Oh, Cooper's gone.
Cooper's left the building.
Now, the truth is, V600 at 200 grand, you've got to do a bit of negotiation, and it's a conversion. This is a car that didn't come out the factory as a
It's
new
a factory
V600.
conversion.
yeah.
But a lot of them are works conversion. Frankly, it was a works conversion anyway.
Correct. They were all like that.
I love the back.
I've been down this road. I've wanted something. We spoke about it this morning. I want one. I went and looked at one at a dealer who will remain nameless.
The one near us. Yeah.
Aston Martin. Yeah.
Right, Aston Centre. Oh, sorry. I went and looked at it, and it was wonderful. It's got tan leather, which is what you want. I skirmished near a Le Mans, which is lovely. It's snorty, it's raughty, it sounds great. And then you look and you think, when this nice body's up, you look at this. You look at that rear sort of three-quarter light, and you look at it against the sort of how it's been put together, and you think, it really is just a triangle. There's nothing really nice about it. It is a triangle. And then you think, when I take this body off, all I'm going to see is basically like a metal ladder.
Yeah.
But you do that in a 550 Maranello. So I reckon Neil, I reckon you're right at V600. Chris Cooper, what are you going to go for?
Well, amazingly, I'm also going to go for the V600 because I read this properly. It said spend 200k investment challenge. I think the AMR is a really good one, Jay, but I don't know what you do with the other 180k you'd have left over once you bought that AMR. And I've looked at the one, I've looked at the one we've all looked at because the three, Jay and Neil and I, don't live a million miles apart.
But you've looked at the blue one.
No, I haven't seen the blue. No, I haven't looked at blue. I looked at the green one with the tan interior.
Oh, there's a blue and a green one.
With the
Yeah.
just the green one. It's got the 6-speed gearbox. It's got
Oh,
the
you're
short,
talking about the V600.
yeah, V600. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I
So-
don't. When it first came out, I remember Roger Bennington from Stratton Motors picked me up in his helicopter and took me away. Yeah, no, seriously. And
Yeah, but it
and
wasn't
we
the
drove
same
report
around.
that stuff these days.
And I think there's a video of me with Tiff driving that 550 around Cadwell Park. I mean, of
Wow,
all
that's
the
brave.
places to drive a V550, Cadwell Park is probably
That's
not
brave.
on a
Jay,
wet.
Jay, how do you remember that part of your life? Yeah, I mean, is it vague?
No.
What
I
are you
just remember
implying?
it was an epic thing at
Yeah.
the time. But I can't get over. I just can't get my head round the switchgear. I can't get my head round the hills. I mean, great when it's running. And if we're going to go down that road, I've had the X-Pack. I've sort of gone down this road, which is a great car. That Zagato, on that note, you get a 7-litre Zagato, pretty
what we need.
front, great thing. I mean, it is a great thing.
Yeah.
But then you look inside, and we're in Alpha SZ territory, aren't
Yeah.
we? We are. In terms of interior, like, what's going on in here?
I'm now going to answer this question. Okay, so I think you've all done a good job, but as ever, you've got it wrong. You've brushed over the one. It's that V8 Zagato. And I'll tell you why, right? Because there's a couple out there for 200 grand at the moment. There's a green one, green with tan, done 50,000 miles, got an auto box, but you can convert it back to manual. I'll tell you why.
Hold on. You said 200 grand.
There is one out there for
And how much is it
199,900.
to change the box?
It's about £1. Also, I know a man. Now, let me finish, Jay. So this car, I just think that there's something about that brutalist Zagato bodywork that will appeal to the next generation.
Yeah, I agree.
I think these slightly more controversial cars. Neil called out an Alpha SZ last week. I know, but last time I saw an SZ parked near where I live, not a sort of regular occurrence, I saw kids all saying how cool it looked. Whereas I think my generation thought it looked a bit odd.
Awkward.
So I think these slightly more controversial looking cars are going to have some appeal going forwards. I've never driven one of these Zagatos, but I always remember that. Is it all September 1987 edition of Car Magazine when it was on the cover?
Yeah.
And the headline was "There'll never be another month like this," and they had the Countach Evoluzione. They had the F40 on the cover. They had this versus the 288 GTO as a twin test. And it was Rowan Atkinson's blue car.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
And it did 180 miles an hour. And that was when 180 was the golden
Was
Yeah,
300.
standard.
There's a picture of Rowan Atkinson sitting as the car goes past at Castle Combe, and the quotation next to the picture is Rowan Atkinson says, it's inverted commas, "The insurance is absurd." And I always remember thinking, I want one of these. So
He had a blue one.
there's that blue one. People think they look shit. I think they look awesome. Have I just got?
I've always thought that.
wonky
Yeah.
eyes?
No, they look mega.
They're great. And I saw one the other day down at Nick Mees from the front.
Have you owned one, Jay, or not?
Never had one. I've never had one. Look, I'm the same as you. I think those V550, V600 are great. And I did go skirmishing a couple of months ago. And the trouble you've got with those cars is you're always going to end up with Magnolia, baby.
Yeah.
In the end,
Magnolia piped blue.
Yeah.
And I just don't want that Magnolia vibe. And that's why I'm saying the one they've got down there is, it's dark green and it's tan. If you get tan pipe green, you're in the game. I think a lot of this stuff.
Wait there, Jay. Wait there. I've got to write these down. These are t-shirt logos. If you've got tan pipe green, you're in the game. That's a t-shirt.
It is a t-shirt.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. You're getting points for the merch here. Right, we've got to move it on. The next one is, here we go. The next question is, here we go. What is your favourite Porsche door handle? This stuff, by the way, is important. I will not allow any kind of laughter. These are serious questions. They're life or death. If you think this is a comedy show, you're in the wrong place. So I'm going to go straight to Manish and Pandy and ask what his favourite Porsche door handle is.
My brother-in-law was always a bit in love and very partial to the 993 series, which I really do think is, for me, I know what you think, but I think they're just aesthetically, that was it. It was the absolute peach point of Porsche. And if you look at the door handles for that series, you have an arrow, you have a little shaft, and then you have a rather gorgeous curved end. But the thing that kills me is where the key goes into the concavity. It's just eccentric within the ellipse. And there's nothing more beautiful. I actually had a quick look at this. Somebody created one in carbon fiber, and I don't know why you'd do that. Just matching the body color. And I remember that my sister, even she's a terrible driver. I don't think she ever put it in second gear. But even she couldn't fuck up putting the key into that. It guides itself, doesn't it? It's perfect. It's absolutely from the clunk when that door opens. It's perfect. It's a.
Can I just thank Manish for using the phrase "eccentric within the ellipse" with that caramel smooth delivery of his? There are going to be people that will have to take time now to reach for the Kleenex to replay that just so they can pleasure themselves. That was deeply pleasurable.
And put it on the back of the T-shirt.
Yes, exactly. We're getting merch ideas here now. Chris Cooper, what's your favourite Porsche door handle?
I'm torn here because I have got two, and they're both.
Oh, you do surprise me.
They're both meaningful. I mean, at one point, it's first love, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my first love, my first Porsche was a 993. Both the external door handle and that internal one with a little carpeted bit on the door pocket on the inside, with that very narrow, lovely little flappy bit. And you had exactly what Neil's doing. And you just put your forearm against the door and you just pull that little flap and you push it out. That was, so internal and external, first love. But I can't walk past, and this is a bit indulgent for you and me, Mr. Harris. I can't walk past that.
Oh, yeah. Cup car door handle.
Which is the 997 Cup car we raced the ring. I say that door handle, that's slightly, because that particular door handle wouldn't have lasted very long because I used to crash that thing quite often. So it was a bit Trigger's broom, that car in the end. But just the feeling of just holding that carbon door, that very, very light, beautifully light door, but it was proper 997 door handle, just that you open that door, you use that handle, and you got into that thing. And I think, honestly, that was the most special memories.
Not me. I'm not dinging. Who's dinging?
Okay, so let's move on to Neil with an E. What's your favourite Porsche door handle?
Okay. I'm absolutely going to trump all of you. So Ferdinand Pache was given the role of running Porsche
door handles.
And so he said to everyone in Porsche in '66, we've got to go racing, but we've got to go racing properly. We don't want to come sixth in Le Mans, whatever happened, or win some random rally. We want to win proper races with this 911. So they commenced the project of the 911R. And we'll all know that project. They made 29 cars, 27 of them white. I've seen the blue one, actually. I've seen the yellow one. There's 3, I think, in the Peterson.
44 of them survived as well. It was really good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I've got one in Brewster Green, which I made up. No, this is an 800 kilo 911 with 210 brake horsepower, like a monstrous little thing. And everything, as we know, was lightened, including the door handles. And I remember seeing one. Here's a photo of it, actually, in the Peterson. It's got a lightweight plastic door handle.
Oh, wow.
In the yellow plastic. That is a bit orgasmic as a door handle.
That is peak us, that door handle.
You know what? Once I've got my Kleenex and listened to Manish say eccentric within the ellipse, I might be looking at that photograph.
Yeah. So that, you won't beat that as a door handle, to be honest.
Jay, favourite Porsche door handle. Try and keep it below 45 minutes.
He's a guest. You can't say things like that.
No, because he's going to have a few. He's going to have a few. What's it going to be?
No, I went into the garage today, and I've got a 993 turbo in there.
Yeah.
Nice.
993 RS. If I can take just 1 minute of the 45, just to also say one of the finest pieces of design ever. And I test drove the car when it first came out, the turbo, and and you never really paid too much attention. Porsche turbos have always had wings on them, but just go back and look at that 993 turbo.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's like it's just melting liquid.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. But I did have a look, and I've got the first of the sort of longer wheelbase, 1968 911S 2 litre. And I just want you to have a look at talking about what won't last long. What will last long is
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
The
Yeah.
full chrome as well. Look
look
at
at
that.
that.
In the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that lovely?
No.
Is it Nord blue? What colour blue is that?
It was a special order Rolls-Royce Royal Blue. Von Porsche Baron. It's actually known in Porsche circles as, similar to myself, as the Baron. And none of you can turn around and say you were called the Baron.
No.
I
No.
love it.
The pub
not
I used to
worthy.
drink in as a kid that had a deliciously racist landlord that used to call me that Bangladeshi. He had a Rottweiler called Baron that he trained to growl at me. So there you go. So
Where's that dog now? Yeah.
I'm going to go.
I'm making chicken pie actually at home. That's where it's
Very nice. Very nice. So Porsche door handles. First of all, Porsche door handles game is mostly strong. They get this. I think all great car makers over time that understand the passion know that contact points are everything. The stuff that you touch regularly, the key, the seat squab, where your elbows go, they get these contact points. They've got to be things that remind you that someone's thought about the subject a bit more. Door handles are everything. There's a car that Porsche made that in most respects I think is criminally underappreciated, and Neil Clifford's got one. It's the 996. The
Yes.
996 door handle, I know people hate these things, from the outside is brilliant. It's ergonomically bang on. I love the way that it's so viciously sprung. It's a bit like a German school teacher saying, "Pull your hand away now, you've had 2 seconds." And it fires back into the bodywork. But also, do you remember when you used to get in an early 996, you had that big, lovely, expensive piece of metal? And again, like all those operations that Porsche have, there was a way of doing it. You just lean your arm forward. You'd put those, and this looks wrong. You could put those 2 fingers within the metal. I know it looks wrong. And you just pull it towards you. And as you pulled it, there's a little solenoid that would click the window dropper. So you'd pull it, you could let the window drop, then go further, and it would open the door. I just think there's a joy about the 996 door handles that is totally forgotten by people. Neil Clifford,
That's a good one.
Yes, well, if we're having an interlude on this week's extended podcast, I will go and get a photograph of them. But no, it's the next fuck Bitcoin. Buy 996s. It's the next investment success of automobiles.
I
Okay.
just want to say that what Chris just described sort of brings it. I've actually got an MRI for my prostate tomorrow, and all this sort of
Good to
finger
know.
solenoid and pulling stuff. I don't know, it just I'm like, oh, shit, what's gonna happen?
There we go. 996 and prostate investigations are combined. See, there's medical knowledge here as well. So we're now
I hope
moving
you're going to the right man. That's all I can say.
Moving on to a subject that has not been discussed by us before. I think all of us have an affinity with this or experiences. I've just written down camper vans, full stop. Why are they so joyful? Because I think they are. Let's start with Manish.
I think it's all about potential, isn't it, and fantasy. And I look at a camper van and I think, where can this take me? And what will I be doing when I'm there? And I can put every single thing into it, a little bit like Phileas Fogg with Passepartout. Before you make the journey, you think about where you might go, and you'd fill this thing with everything that you might need for that particular journey. And I've always had, but my son's godfather, when he was a registrar, he jumped into a long wheelbase Land Rover, not quite a camper van, and they drove from Bristol to Cape Town. And the idea of doing that is just, I think it's just amazing. I love the idea that at some point in my life, I'm going to do exactly the same thing in a camper van. Just literally load it with all the little subtle luxuries of life and go on this incredible journey. And you can sleep in it, and you can cook in it, and you can just sit and watch TV in it. And because of the internet, I guess you can sit and do anything you want in it at any time. It's the pluripotential thing. And all I would say is I have seen the best Volkswagen camper van that there is. We made a film with Tom Christensen many, many years ago, and I went to see Tom in Denmark. He invited me home, and we had lunch, and he has, as part of his house, he has a garage, which is a little bit like the Bat Cave, and you take a staircase to go down rather than the Bat Pole. And he's got his Le Mans winning Audis in there and, all kinds of things. But pride of place, Tom was born in 1969, is an absolutely immaculately restored 1969 Volkswagen Combi, red and white. And that's the car that I would love to do all of my perfect journeys. I mean, it's immaculate inside. They're the most romantic thing, and they're just full of potential. That's what they are.
I think that's a lovely answer. I've just Googled bat pole, and I wasn't happy with what I've just been shown.
No,
on
that's
the
a
images
different
section.
kind of.
So, Jay, can you please tell us what you think about camper vans?
Okay, where do you want to start? I mean, I've always had camper vans. I love, as Manish said, putting everything in. It's the whole planning, thinking process, everything else that goes into it. Now, just going back, and I built them up slowly. Now, my brand of choice is Carthago because they're German, and as you go along, the radiators, it heats the radiators. They do make the best of your sort of camper vans. And I've also had a VW that I had it still had its original Devon gear in it.
Yeah.
And and my wife came in and looked at it and went, "What the fuck is this? It smells." So she called it, I said, "It's charming." She called it Smelly Betty. And that didn't last long. And then I thought, as Manish just said, do you know what? Fuck this. I actually do. I want to drive across to Georgia, to Kazakhstan. And I had a dog called Kruger at the time, German Shepherd. I called him Krug. And funnily enough, then I got in touch with a company called Krug, who were from Ukraine and who made these MAN campers.
Yeah, they're good.
So I spec this or there, and that's where, a lot of these Herberts, the whole thing goes like this. This is where the body moves against the cab. It was really fucking cool. I thought, this is it. We're going to, where do you want to go? Where do you want to start? And so then I remembered that I had children. Where the fuck are you going to go in this on your own? That was it. And so it sat. I didn't even get to do my HGV license. I didn't go anywhere. And just to top that off, I also, speaking of Land Rovers, have just sold, and I wish I could have made your dream come true, Manish, because I've just lost a fortune on it, was a Land Rover Namibia with the back end. I first saw one on tour in South Africa that goes like that has everything, little shower, all the rest of it, all crammed into this Land Rover. And one day I thought, let's just see what big chunky tires. I thought, let's just see what this fucker can do. So I took it out in the field where it rained for about 10 minutes and it got stuck. I thought, I'm not going to do well in the fucking highlands of Ethiopia in this, am I? We got stuck in fucking Horsenden Manor in the field. And consequently, that was the end. So now what I have ordered, sorry to keep going, but what I have ordered that's coming this winter is I thought I've cracked it because I'm always looking for the combination of space. Who can we get in? So it's got a pop top. So think of your VW, and I've got one of those here that I use, quite nice. Hey kids, have a great time playing football. Just going to go make a cup of tea. Bye. And so what I've got is the new Heimer. And the new Heimer, and I met a bloke. I happened to see one for sale, and I saw a bloke, and the bloke phoned me up. There was one that was tricked out, had fucking everything, winches, you name it, lights, bloody all the rest of it. The only thing it didn't have was a 50 cal on the top. And I got in touch. He goes, "Oh, it's you. We've met each other before. Blah blah blah, etc. etc." So we've both ordered one in sand. He imports all the proper shit from America, jacks them up, makes this the real deal, and that's coming in April.
Wow.
I always thought the great thing about there was a Heimer that was parked. They always get left on street corners, and you think they've been abandoned, but actually, because they're German, people that own the old ones leave them there, know they can leave them for 6 months, start them up, and go. Yeah. But the one that was near me, someone just made the R and N with gaff.
Oh God, I knew you were going to go there.
And we used to walk past it every day, thinking, who did that? Because everyone thought I did it, obviously, with my sense of humour, but it wasn't me. Chris Cooper, well, tell me about camper vans.
I think they're the most fun vehicle.
Yeah.
They're the vehicle. They're not necessarily the nicest to drive, OBS, but they're the vehicle in which we have the most fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I, Mr. H, we had a VW California. We drove from, you picked me up from Brussels Airport. We went to the Ring and there and back. And on the way back, we had a dice with a mate in his 996 GT3 RS. On that little windy road from the Ring through Kelberg, Gerolstein to sort of the motorway bit. And the thing with the camper van is you can sort of drive it like a sort of a sidecar. So you were driving and I was the sidecar passenger. So you can leap from side to side in the back of the camper van. It has an enormous effect on the handling. You can move your weight forwards and backwards, so you can adjust the pitch of the vehicle. So you want a bit more turn in, you dive to the front of the thing. Bit more traction, you run to the back. It was the most fun we've ever had in a vehicle. And then when we got onto the motorway, you can say, fancy a cup of tea? Go make a cup of tea.
And they'll do 150, 120 miles an hour. They're bloody brilliant things.
How much could you just, how much fun?
Yeah.
How much? It's just, you can get your Snickers or your Marathon, go and make a cup of tea, go and wave at people out the back window and make, friendly British gestures to all the German drivers.
Can I remind you just of the case? Sometimes when I'm driving mine along, the big Carthago, big thing, and I do remember getting stopped in 8 hours of traffic before the M42. To give you an idea, I watched 2 films, had a bunk up, had a poo, and made a nice big dinner as well. But just to say, the other thing I want to say, and every now and again when I am on my own, and I do go off a lot in it, absolutely love it. Here we go, big Carthago, double wheel at the back, rolling along, and I think, fucking fridge is back there. I'd love to make a fucking cheese and tomato sandwich. Fuck it. And I often think of the woman who was in the United States who actually did do that and left the wheel, and there was a court case. She went, well, I thought it just drove itself to make a coffee in the Winnebago, and just left it and careered off the road.
Yeah. They're brilliant fun.
Neil Clifford, I know you've got some great stories of how you operated with camper vans, haven't you? You've done lots of camper van traveling, Neil.
Land Rover, he's got one. Tell us where you've been in it.
Nowhere. I bought it from a very strange car auction website when they were cool, and I mean, there's an hour story to that, to the point where I turned up and the service history had been hidden because obviously I got it at a cheap price. And then I had to camp in the office for 3 hours, so they miraculously found the service history. But that's another story.
That's for our subscription version of the podcast.
You need to pay your monthly sub to hear that story. Actually, I'm frustrated with camper vans because I adore them and I buy them, but I buy them for a parallel life that I don't have.
Yeah,
that's the problem, because you buy these things imagining that you don't have a job, you don't have, frankly, even a family, which of course I love my family, but you have this sort of vision of living your life like in a Japanese sort of hunting and fishing magazine, where you can just disappear for months and no one knows where you are, and it's this feeling of, I suppose, freedom, which you can never unlatch yourself from all the shit that you've latched yourself onto, life in general. So I buy these camper vans. I've had Heimers. I've bought a couple of. I've just bought, as we know, recently a little 12-seater combi. Went around Australia actually for a year in one, so I have actually done something. I bought a beautiful Heimer, 30 grand with the little trailer on the back, with the little Fiat Cinquecento on the back. That had
The
obviously
tow car thing, yeah.
rusted out. You try to get an MOT, and they're like, "You got to be kidding, mate! That's going to fall in half the first time you drive." And then you do try to use it once, and they always get used once, and the heating doesn't work, and the shower's freezing cold, and the bog doesn't flush, and so it's a sort of erotic horror for me, because I want to really have that life, but I don't have that life. So it's sort of
That's
it's
another T-shirt, Neil. Erotic horror. Or that's all that. It's like Jay's new band, Erotic Horror. What a great name for a band.
You want freedom, escape. You want to be, we're just nipping up to the Lake District on a Thursday and cook some sausages and have a little sausage sandwich and a cup of tea. You've got all this imaginary shit that you want to do, but then you've got a list of stuff that you've actually got to do in your life, so you never do it. So it's a bit frustrating. It's love and frustration.
A bit like
do it, though.
My bog doesn't work. That's why I should have bought a Carthago.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the camper van thing, I hate to say it, this is lazy and I'm probably revealing too much. You need to be a motoring journalist and just borrow them, because I have never owned one, and whenever I'll probably want to use one a few times a year, I phone up the Volkswagen press office or the Mercedes press office and say, "Can I borrow one?" And it arrives and it's clean and it's lovely and everything works because it's been in the garage and they've sorted it out. And they're wonderful, but they're a bit like owning a shit speedboat. I do have a shit speedboat. You, when you want to use it, it never works because it's just been left there. So you have to decide you're going to use it in advance, which means being organised, and I'm not. Also, none of us have any patience because we're men. So the minute we want to use the camper van, it has to work that minute, but it's not going to, is it? Because you need to have given it to a man to fix it. So I think you want to borrow one from a fleet that's used regularly, and then I absolutely love them. And also, there's something about sleeping in the vehicle of which you've arrived. For me, is that romantic? I don't know what it is. I just love it. It feels so efficient. You feel so efficient.
Yeah.
It's so smug. And more often than not, the camper van allows you to be in a place that's more convenient for what's going to happen afterwards than all of your mates. All of your mates are going to be in hotel rooms or at the Six Senses spa with 9 stars having a hand job. But you are there. You're at the epicenter in your camper van. And that's the whole point of it, isn't it?
Or they're putting a tent up.
Yeah.
Which is shit.
Yeah. And you can change your view every day.
Oh,
and not only that, I like to have my cab. I go, torches up here. In case I don't know where we go, night vision goggles. Oh, yeah, sheep.
Night vision goggles.
I've got everything on it. It generators, boats, everything else. You would think I was going around the world, even though I'm going up to Scotland. But like one thing, we did talk about this, Neil, this morning, didn't we? And I went off down to North Devon and barreling along. I go, this is really nice. The other thing, can I just say about England and the Nazi Trust? I mean, the National Trust. It's like, can we actually have somewhere that we can actually go, that has got a bar across it. I'd like to I went down to, not long ago, actually, down to Wales. I took the family down. It was a miserable weekend. And we ended up just outside Harlock. There's a load of the biggest sand dunes in the UK down there. And I parked just next to the old airfield. Now, they used to run training hawks there. It was great. But I parked at the end of the airfield, and there's a little island. It's called, what's it called? Whatever it's called. And it basically comes over with the water. And we sat there, and I said to the kids, they said, our friends have gone to the Maldives. I said, who needs the Maldives? Make your own Maldives here. But the other thing is that you go barreling along, and you're going in your camper van. You're going, this is amazing. And then you're suddenly going, yeah, but I wish I had a fucking 4-litre GTS Boxster for this ride. and now I'm stuck 272 miles away in this camper.
Yeah.
There's always that juxtaposition. Going back to Neil as well, I bought a little Up GTI. Best thing I ever bought.
Nice.
Little 21 plate Up GTI. And if you can stick that on the back,
Yeah.
you're in the game.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the rig. So this afternoon, we're recording this on a Sunday. This afternoon was the final Grand Prix of the season. There was plenty to talk about, especially, I think, a first corner incident that definitely ruffled some feathers amongst my co-hosts. There's a lot of choice Saxon being uttered after Max's first corner. Jay didn't watch the race, so we'll ask him for a general F1 opinion once we've heard from Manish. What do you reckon for that race, and what do you reckon of Max?
Sorry. Well, he's correct. I do think, Lando is your man. He's gonna. It's going to happen for him at some point. I thought McLaren have done really, really bloody well this season, to be quite frank.
Well, they've actually just won the constructors, so fair play. Manish,
Yeah,
what do you
exactly.
reckon?
In order, Max Verstappen barreling down the inside of Oscar Piastri, I think thought he was at a Grand Prix about 5 Grand Prix ago, and it was Lando on the outside. I think that's the only explanation for it. He just forgot which race he was in and what month, because he was basically trying to take Lando out for the championship. It's the only explanation for it. It was just such a stupid maneuver. And then to criticize the stewards, calling them idiots, and why didn't they make it a 20-second penalty, was pretty needless. And, Chris, you say it every week after a Grand Prix review, you say, we have no problem with Max's absolute genius. And he is an absolute genius. And he is the best driver in Formula One. Okay, there you go. All the naysayers who think that we criticize him for no good reason. He's acrobatic. The way he saved the car in qualifying yesterday, he was going into that wall. How that car didn't go into the wall. Now, remember, you texted the 2 words. I think you texted on the group chat, fuck me. I think that's literally what you texted. And I think we all felt that. What a genius. He literally somehow kept the car out of the wall. But when he loses it, he is right at the bottom of the pile. I really think so. He has some behavior issues. He does really have them. And, you do wonder whether this is the young man who had a helmet thrown at him by his father. You do wonder whether this is the young man who was abandoned at a petrol station at the age of whatever because he didn't win a race and had to find his way home. And you do wonder whether this is the man whose father has a criminal record for grievous bodily harm, because it's come from somewhere. It's come from somewhere. And it really, when it comes out, it's ugly, it's unpleasant, it's unbecoming. It literally drives me completely mad. And he's not the same as Senna, Neil, okay? He's not the same as Senna. You always wind me up with that.
Bastard like Senna.
I went out in a 2-seat Minardi with Jos.
Go on.
Yeah, scared the pants. They did a thing at Rockingham Park. They took 7 celebrities. And I remember, and I was the only one who didn't have a chicken switch. And Jordan was there, I remember. She got knocked out in the first half of the circuit. And there was just this... And this sort of null.
We can all picture that.
This head rolled at the end of it all. Yeah.
And I just want to, just one really big, very emotional thing for me anyway. After Senna, the first thing that we made was going to be the behind-the-scenes Formula One show, and we'd got a great deal with Amazon, and I went to McLaren, and it was right at the beginning. It was March 2017, and I remember we arrived at McLaren probably 2 weeks after Ron Dennis had left, and Zach had taken over. Bernie Eccleston left Formula One that day, I remember. And we started filming at this team full of hope. It was the second year of the Honda engine. It was definitely going to come good, and it was all going to be great. And their drivers were, do you remember, Fernando Alonso and Stoffel Van Dorn? And Stoffel had won every single thing on the way up to Formula One. And I just thought, what a dream project, because I love this team. We got to know them so well through Senna. We got to know the mechanics. We got to know the designers. And it was a nightmare year. It was absolute annus horribilis for McLaren. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But I met a man who was going to, I didn't know, would be my best friend in Formula One that year. And he was Fernando's race engineer stroke director of performance, and his name was Andrea Stella. And I remember we had a coffee, and his token didn't work because at McLaren everything was so space age. You had these credit cards even to buy you a coffee and a cookie. So he borrowed a card off someone else. We had to share a chocolate. And we had this coffee, and I thought, you are one of the brightest, nicest people I've ever met in my life. And he was the one who personally spoke to Fernando and gave us access to Fernando, which made the show what it could be. And we stayed really, really good friends from then onwards. And McLaren were nowhere that year. And I remember Zach, he got a lot of stick for the way that he would find sponsorship for McLaren. He instead of being able to find this one massive sponsor to put on the airbox or the side pods or the rear or front wings, Zach mosaicked that car. He worked his arse off year after year after year, doing the smallest deals and medium-sized deals, biggish deals when he could. And there's an iconic moment in that show when the Honda engine is finally put in the car and it didn't start. And I remember that just went as viral as it could be. You just see it click, 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 and everybody watches it. It's the end of episode 2 and you wonder what's going to happen. And when the car went testing, Fernando said, this is a shit engine. It's the worst engine. It's a Formula 2 engine. The anger, the frustration, the fury, the absolute, all that promise, down the toilet, really. And to see that same team 8 years down the line with basically the same crew, Andrea now runs the shop. Zach's doing massive deals. And they've just won the Constructors' Championship. And they've done it with a customer engine, which is not supposed to happen. They've done it with a customer Mercedes engine. And, it would have been wonderful had Lando won the championship. I think probably on balance, Max deserved it more. But driver of the day for me, it wasn't Charles Leclerc. It was Lando Norris. He got pole position. He kept it in the lead. He was utterly cool. You saw the team did a tyre stop in 2 seconds. They could have done a 4-second stop and still come out in front, but they did it in 2 seconds. And to see Zach fist pumping and just to see Andreas smiling, because I've seen frowns at that team that are so deep and so wounding, I think, for me, this is my absolute favorite championship since Senna became a triple champion in 1991. And I'm not just saying that. It's just that it was just such a moment of joy seeing Lando win it and seeing those boys all grinning away. And do you see them jumping up and down to Duran Duran's Wild Boys in the garage? I mean, wrong tune, but absolutely the right sentiment. So that's what I would say about that race.
I would. Look at that.
Brilliant.
Look,
Brilliant.
I
Is that
just,
Gordon
I just
McKee
got sent that from Gordon Murray.
That's
Wow.
when racing drivers look cool. So I'd say one thing before I ask Chris Cooper. I'd say for me, you can't give driver of the day to Lando because Piastri deserves driver of the day, not for his driving, but for that radio message when he'd been turned around by Max, and he very coolly replied, "Move of a world champion." That.
Yeah.
I just thought that for me, to say that, he must have been spitting tax. He was so angry. And he's just delivered. And only Aussies got that sort of cool delivery, move of a world champion there. You can imagine him, can't you? I just thought, bang on. Chris
Did
Cooper,
you hear him forgive?
what
He
did you
forgave
make
him, by the way. Chris, he forgave him in the post-race interview. He said, he came up to me, apologised. It's no big deal. That was it.
Yeah, I don't believe he thinks that at all. I think he's a very good actor, Piastri. First race next year, he'll spear him. Chris Cooper, what do you reckon?
So I think that episode was the most important thing we saw all year because it showed Max is human. He actually made a mistake. It's a standard mistake. It wasn't a huge one. He didn't come flying out of nowhere and T-bone the guy, but it was a mistake. It was on him. And every driver will have seen that and said, he's just like me. He can make a mistake. So I think that makes next year really interesting. The other thing I thought, and you kind of, you touched on it, Manish, watching Zach, I mean, Chris, you and I have raced, and, we played at it, but How do you know if you're a racer? How do you spot a racer? For a racer, winning is the most important thing, bar nothing. It feels different to anything else. Zach's a racer. You could tell today that meant more to him than anything else in his life hitherto. He's a racer.
He
And
said
that's
it was the best day of his life.
Yeah, he's a racer, and that's how it feels. It's brilliant.
I thought it was it could have been a much more anticlimactic race. Actually, I think Yas never really delivers, but today actually it did deliver some really good racing. There was some great battles. I think we're sad to see K-Mag and Bottas go, but you know what? The changing of the guard, it's about time we had some new faces in. I thought Lewis's changing gear from sort of white to then red and white to then red today when he turned circuit was a nice metaphor as well. It just maybe the best thing about the end of a term is that it should leave you sad the term's ended, but excited about next term. And I did feel excited for next term. I just thought I'm looking forward to seeing who's in what house. You know, who's going to be a Hufflepuff, who's going to be who's going to be a Slytherin. Obviously, Max. And I think it's going to be a great season next season. So no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, at this point in the proceedings, I propose a 2-car garage to my learned colleagues. Jay, I hope you've been warned about how this works. So I read out a scenario, and you have to choose 2 cars within the budget that's expressed. So here we go. If I can make my telephone work. I'm not very good with this text. But. A 2-car garage from Little Green Lightweight, which, given the description of himself at the end, I think might be a lie. This is a 2-car garage which directly affects my forthcoming situation. You're closing on 50-something. You're a closing on 50-something who's moving to the silky smooth roads of the Shetlands. However, the side roads are gravel and winters can be harsh. You need something 4-wheel drive with enough room for 4 adults and luggage to enable collection of family from the airport in even the worst of weather, and a convertible that's fun to drive with heated seats for the long summer days and nights, with the aurora borealis shining on you with the roof down. That sounds very appealing. Budget is £30,000 combined for the 2 vehicles. At the end here, which does make me question his name, I'm 6'2", so nothing too small. Also, a bonus point for anything with a galvanised body to keep the sea air at bay. Jay, you have 2 cars that you've got to choose that fit those very strict criteria. Are you up to the task?
Okay, so, blimey, 30 grand. Okay, so going for the gravel, 4-wheel drive. So there were some obvious scenarios, beaten up Range Rover, classic, as it were.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. Don't know, is it sort of 15 for each car?
Yeah, you split it as you want.
Okay. So going on that basis, there were a couple of scenarios, and I was trying to think about, obviously trawling, looking at cars, for far too much time in the day. I thought I would know this, it would be easy. It's not. Now, I did think, I wanted to read you this and see if I could throw this back at you. Okay. For rough going, it copes extremely well since the suspension has ample travel and damping and there is good ground clearance. It is just on the matter of hill climbing and traction that it falls down. These things apart, it is still very versatile. Autocar Magazine, July 1978. Can you tell me what that is?
Ooh.
I think that is a. I think that's a Range Rover.
You're never going to get it.
What is it?
It's a Matra
Rancho.
Oh, very good.
Banco.
Now,
I'd have the Matra Rancho, regardless. Yes. I think they're one of the coolest fucking things ever made.
It is, totally.
Look at it.
Look at it.
But wait, later it did a 7-seater for those. For, as if I had any relations. Look, for when the little grot bags turn up, get in the back. Look at those big windows. I mean, way before a Discovery, I might add.
Way.
Did somebody take something from somewhere? Possibly. I mean, the thing is, put the right powertrain in that, and that is just very safari looking. And not only that. So there was that. Or I did think, if you want something that's really going to do the business, Now, obviously, my missus is from the eastern lands of Russia. So but the bottom line is, if you want to get in and out, what do they drive all the time? That little Hovis loaf van.
Yeah.
You know the little Russian loaf thing that you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seen it
Yeah.
for years. It's been around. They use them in the forest, and I think they still make them. I've seen one up at the Cop Hill Climb, and some guy had a relatively new one.
That's right.
Same thing. Have you seen it, Neil?
Yeah.
Talking about Neva.
Really fancy. Anyway, look, that's that done. I mean, that was about it. Early Range Rover, what have you. But then I thought, two-seater, bloody hell. You know, if I've bought the Matra Rancho, it did say, just out of interest, that was £5,650.
5,000 quid for that.
Yeah, they made 58. Wait, they made 58,000 of them. There's probably about 4 left. As they got right.
Yeah.
But-
29 grand.
Exactly. But saying that, but that's going to come out cheap anyway. I reckon it will do the job. And then for me, heated seats, it's got to be a Honda S2000, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good car.
yeah.
Got the revs, Honda S2000. Failing that, obviously, you know, we got MX5, loads to lease. But S2000, it's got to be
Yeah.
the kitty, man.
I like it. I mean, if
Got to be
you
the kitty.
said
9,000 RPM.
what would I
Lovely.
guess Jay picking? I wouldn't say he'd pick a Matra Rancho and S2000. That is exactly what is required on this podcast. Lateral thinking. Great spot.
Yeah.
Chris Cooper, what are you going for?
I love the Matra. I mean, isn't that just the coolest car, mate? They made missiles, jet fighters,
And
then they-
wait, and the Dejette, 3-seat, the little Dejette. You
Yeah.
remember the
yeah,
Dejette?
yeah, and the Bagheera as well.
Looks like, look,
The Bagheera.
well, I won't say what car that's coming out that I've got coming, but the rear end has got something. Well, never mind.
Yes,
Okay.
it has. Yeah, go on.
Yes. You know what I was going to
I
say.
do,
don't you?
yes. Go
Yeah.
on.
So, I think you would have a Defender TD5.
Yeah.
Galvanized chassis, galvanized body.
Yeah.
It's British. Shetlanders are very, very patriotic. I think British part of the British Isles. So I think a Defender TD5, about £9 grand. Get one with the galvanized chassis. Got to be
Short
TD5.
wheelbase or long? Long or short wheelbase?
110.
110, yeah.
Yeah. Got to be a 110. Either
Yeah.
a station wagon, because you'll need to put a sheep in it. At some point on the Shetland Islands, you're going to have to put a sheep in it. It's just, you know, get your head around it.
Yeah.
Sorry, is
We
this
got 21
is that community service or loneliness? What where are we heading here?
All of the above.
Okay,
All
right.
of the
Sorry,
above.
carry on. Yeah.
21 grand left. 2-seater. Obviously, you've got to have a manual gearbox, 6-litre V12 convertible.
XJS.
Nope.
No.
DB7 Vantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
DB7 Vantage. There's one for sale for 21 grand at this dealer up the road we haven't mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw it this afternoon.
No,
I
did
thought
you?
21 grand. I thought,
You know what? I'm going there in the morning because it's on.
Not before me, not.
I'm going. No, not for that though. We know what I'm going for.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Manish, what are you going to spend your £30,000 on?
Well, God, mine are really, really boring now. I'm going to go for a brace of Toyotas because I don't think anything up there should break down. I think you're far too far away from anywhere. I found a 2016 Land Cruiser, the one with the sort of smaller engine,
Yeah.
the 2.8
Yeah.
diesel.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't believe how much car you get for the money. It's got 74,000 miles. It just has everything in it. It just has every single thing in it. 10-year-old car. And I am going to spend the bulk of my money on this because you do have rallies and so on and so forth. So it was £22,000. I think this car doesn't have heated seats, I'm afraid.
Doesn't matter.
I've got
We
a-
can buy
I've
you.
got a-
They do an insert that you can buy and plug into a fag lighter on Amazon. I've bought them.
Yeah.
They
You
Well,
don't
sell-
need
that's
it in the car either.
fantastic. Because there's just, for the remaining £8,000, I found, it's just, I think it's stunning. It's a 2004 Toyota MR2.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you wouldn't want a rear-wheel drive manual little baby Toyota to chuck around Shetland. I just think it's great.
They're
It's a
also
great
mid-engine, so they really do handle those little things. They're
Absolutely.
I got in trouble with the MX-5 community when I'd said that the MR2 was a much better car. I had lots of people threatening me with pronouns and stuff. It was bad. So I think it's a very good two-car choice. That Neil Clifford, what are you going to go for?
Oh, Right, I'm starting with the cabriolet. There's a, I've promoted them before, I shouldn't really, but Heel and Toe, lovely little website, young lads. They've got an E36 B3 in Scarab Green,
Yeah, that was my second
Alpina,
choice.
convertible,
Yeah,
right?
that's perfect.
I mean, heated seats, got all the gear, got the little Alpina plaque, rare in green, electric roof. Actually, you could put the kids in the back. I know it should be two-seater, but surely four-seater is even better. 13,995 for an Alpina.
No.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Christ.
What's the rear subframe like, boys? Come on, those.
I've actually looked into that one. It's not bad. I've looked
Okay.
into that one.
Yeah. And so I've got 17 grand and I don't need to spend 17 grand. I'm going to buy a Disco 4. And actually
Yeah.
Christian's mum's car is on the website. It's silver with tan, Disco 4.
Can I just put this out there that the fella that I've just bought, very nice guy from Liverpool called Bryn, I've just bought from him a Japanese import, because it's the only way you'll get something with 40,000 miles on it, C204 C63 estate.
Oh,
Black.
Has it got the right wheels?
Lovely thing. But what he has got, which he has been tempting me with, is a Disco 4, but for the Japanese market, they're made them with V8s in.
Yes.
I believe so.
And guess what? It's dark green with biscuit leather.
Oh. Why have you not? Hold on. So the only question, Jay, the only question is,
that's your plug. That's the
why
lot.
have you not bought that car?
You know, because there's a reason I can't say it on air.
Okay.
I bought something else.
Oh, okay. Right.
I bought something else, which probably shouldn't have. Don't mind letting you know, because it was an XJLR thing, and it was used for display. And look, you whether you know or not, I've got a lovely 30,000 mile, one of the early long wheelbase 5-litre supercharged Range Rovers. Okay, I had G wagons for years and years, and I remember phoning up, and it was a certain dealer we won't mention, and I phoned Mr. Clifford up, and I went, I really fancy this, long wheelbase TVs. I love a TV because you get the mini camping vibe, little fridge, there. And I said, I really fancy. Have you seen it? He goes, yeah, I'm in it. Because he just fucking bought it. He was on his way down to the bloody West Country in it. Anyway, needless to say, I just fancy. I got a thing, and I didn't know why. I knew the new ones. Not really into it. Don't like the build quality. Certainly don't like any of this MHEV stuff. Keep me well away. MEV, call it what you like. And so I thought, what have they got? Last of the line, something a bit shorter. So I did buy a 10,000 mile, and not something in a crap colour, in a nice, just navy blue, very dark blue, P565.
Oh,
That's
nice.
Yeah.
About 10,000 miles XJLR, and they obviously used a display thing because in the back is something that weighs the size of a coffin, and it has got, which I've never seen before, and I'm never going to use. They've gone into a shed over there with P565 and a bloody post-it note on them. Are the little seats that got the slide-out thing? You put the polo seats.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Polo.
Yes.
The bondage seats in the back.
Weekend,
Yeah.
as you can imagine.
They're actually for dogging, so you can watch fellow
They are.
bloggers. So you can just reverse up. Don't mind us. We're just getting the seats out. You just carry on. Put that in there. We're just going to get our seats out.
I do think it's a last of the line type thing, kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I still think that shape is quite elegant. It still sort of harks back to the old one, and I think the new one has kind of lost it. Black wheels, black. I can't see any pins on it.
Don't get started on that. Yeah.
So Neil, can we just come
what I
back?
mean? You get that, Chris?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think I totally agree with you. So to come back to Neil, you've had a Discovery
Alpina
4,
cab.
Alpina cab Discovery 4. Right, so I'm now in 4.
And left for winter tyres and servicing.
Yeah, it's perfect. So I'll keep mine fairly brief. I've got a funny problem at this price point with Cayennes. The first Cayenne they built, they were so worried about its reliability and making sure that it had some impact in the marketplace. They over-engineered it. They smashed the shit out of them. And now in America, they've become a bit of a cult. People are taking early Cayenne S's and turbos and doing all sorts of things with them because the body is so tough. So I think I found a 28,000 mile first generation Cayenne Turbo S that someone's selling for not much money at all.
They're good.
Um,
I think
and
that's
it's on Auto Trader. You'll find it. It's a dark color with a sort of tan interior. It's one of those ones. The story probably doesn't stack up. It was probably part of the Libyan embassy or something back in the day. but you've no idea. Ex-embassy car. And that leaves me just enough money for. I'm going 2-seater. It's got heated seats, definitely. Because like the rest of the world, given recent events, all I'm doing is looking at Jaguars. I can't stop looking at Jaguars. So I found a leggy F-Type V6 for about 15, 16 grand. You can get them.
Nice.
I think they look really good. It's the new
Yeah.
TVR, isn't it? And I think we should all be. We'll soon be reminiscing about that brand, I fear. So I'm going to reminisce like that. So that brings us to the end of the car section of this. I'm now going to surprise our guests by saying that normally we end this weekly podcast, Jay, by choosing some music. And just to make you feel thoroughly uncomfortable, we've all got to choose a Jamiroquai tune this time because we love your music because it's great driving music. So each of us is going to choose our favourite Jamiroquai tune. You can choose your favourite tune of your own if you want, or you can choose a tune that you want to recommend our listeners to enjoy during the Christmas period that you didn't write or perform. So let's start off with Chris Cooper, Jamiroquai track, please.
Okay. Yeah, I got this wrong because I obviously heard there was a musician coming on. I thought it was Ed Sheeran. Sorry about that. I'm kidding. I mean, I actually really like White Knuckle Ride. White Knuckle Ride.
Have you ever seen the video with the 2.7 RS in it?
Yes.
I did. I saw it this afternoon.
Yeah, it's quite cool. Do you know what we had to do? We had to put foam up underneath the arches to stop all the stones hitting it.
Did you?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I thought, fuck that. I'm not taking my right hook Dalmatian Blue 2.7 RS and killing it. One of the only times that I didn't drive it and I flew the aircraft instead. That was dodgy.
Yeah. Still got your license.
I have.
Manish, Ayrton, Pandy, what are you going for?
I was going to go for a song called Tallulah because when
she just poked her head in and went, "Dinner's ready."
Oh, so when I went through a period in 2008, 9, 10. That period of time, I was traveling tons and tons and tons. And my son, who at that point, I think he was 4 at the time, he heard the song and just completely fell in love with it. And he would just play it all the time. And I remember when he turned 10, Jay recorded a really sweet little birthday message for him, just going, "Hey, happy birthday, Darshi. I hope you get everything that you want." And I just remember him being just so overawed. Hello, Tallulah.
Hello,
you are Tallulah. Finally, we meet Tallulah. But I'm not going to go in true Chris Cooper fashion. I'm going to go for a song that I really love, and I love it for lots and lots of reasons, but mostly because I think it's a song about how old we are, about things that are maybe missing in our lives, which, they could be replaceable, they may not be replaceable, and it's called Half the Man. And I just think it is an unbelievable piece of music. It's mellow, it's heartbreaking. It takes me to lots and lots of places.
I used to be. Maybe that's because you're the other half of me.
You're the other half of me. It's a beautiful song.
And do you know, it's Christmas time, and it's funny you say that because you know those things for cracking walnuts? I need to put my bollocks in that to reach those notes these days. But thank you. Very nice.
Neil, I mean, this is a bit difficult for you. Which one's he's a good mate of yours, and I know you love the music.
Well, my favourite is Little L.
Great piece of music.
That's, in this shitty weather and the shitty rain, it just reminds me of, it just is sort of uplifting, joyous summertime vibe. And we need a bit of that, don't we? We miss a bit of sunshine at the minute.
You're going to get that because it's funny because when you talked to me and said, name your favourite tune, I said, I haven't listened to anything but the new bloody album I'm making. So I've got about 14 tracks on that, which we are heavy into. And it's looking good, so hopefully you'll enjoy that when it comes out. But
look forward to that.
Big tour next year.
End of next year, the Heels of Steel. Yeah.
I don't know where to begin with this because it's definitely the most listened to music in my car and in my student digs back then. So I think I've said to Jay many times latterly that actually people overlook Cloud Nine's a great tune, great video. It's got 280 SE cab in it. It's got a 275. What a fantastic video. However, because of my student days and because I never thought I'd be on a podcast with his nibs, it has to be Space Cowboy, but that David Morales club mix with the they just that's the sound of my student years. That's all we listened to. Every car, it was just magic.
You know what? It's fun. I did an interview in Austria once before a show years ago. And the guy said to me, he goes, "So you were full of social conscience, and now all your videos are just cars and girls." and then we didn't get on very well. So then he spoke to me about the European tour. So we won't mention the last guy who came from this town and did a European tour, mate.
Yeah, where's he now?
Yeah, exactly. Where's he now? Precisely. Yeah.
So Jay, give us a tune to listen to.
Okay, so I'll give you two tracks. I mean, like I say, I won't do one of mine. I mean, it's worth having to think about. If we were going to do one of mine, it's not my favourite, but it's funny because in my position, you do get people play, the usual stuff and what have you. But there is a wealth of stuff on those albums, and every now and again, generally after about 7 years after I've made it, I put it on. But there is Black Devil Car, which was kind of, when the Enzo came out, it was like, and I listened to it the other day and thought, you know what, this is kind of up there. But anyway, aside from that, here's a great track to listen to, especially in weather like this. And when I'm feeling really down, and that can be quite a lot, which is Gil Scott-Heron, Lady Day and John Coltrane. This is a great, great track. And the other great track is, it's Nights on Broadway, but the Candy Stanton version.
Yeah.
Fiji Summer. Blame it on the Nights on Broadway.
I love that.
Sweet sound and I'm going down. But the Candy Stanton version of it, have a listen to that, because that is great. That's a proper driving track. And I first put that on, I bought one of those fucking great Mercedes S63 convertibles. and I had that last year. Another great thing, S560. Grab it before they go.
Yeah, I know. We're looking at them, Mr. H and I.
Yeah, S560. Smooth, lovely, effortless driving. It's all gone. There is no more. It's all gone.
I want to say a massive thank you to Jay for joining us on this special Christmas podcast and confirming that he is one of us. So he has to go off for what will be a delicious roast dinner. Chris Cooper has to go off for a roast dinner. Neil Clifford, I know, has a roast dinner coming. And Ayrton Pandy Senna has, would you believe it, got a chicken pie coming. He's gone for the pie rather than the roast.
I'm making it.
I've got a roast chicken coming as well. It's been an absolute pleasure, Jay. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. It's been a joy. Thank you,
Thanks for having me, guys. Good luck with it. And,
goodbye from all of us.
And to all you guys out there, have a great Christmas, and I'll see you out there. And look out for my Christmas single as well, which I am doing one, and it goes something like this. It goes Christmas with Putin, Donald and Kim. Open the door, let Benjamin in. They've got the nukes and I've got the pies. Something along those lines. Anyway. See you later. Take care.